right. Jeremy, you were down in Florida for the media session.
Yeah.
There was a lot of talk about trade for the free agency discourse that happens after this period of free agency. Um, where do you want to go with this? Because I feel like there's some other NFL news that I almost want to start with trade because there's other NFL
Absolutely.
news that
You want to
is
talk trade
happening.
down? I'm in. Let's talk trade down because
Of
yeah,
course. Now we've hit on
you
what
you
Jeremy really
you've
likes.
woken the beast here. Because yeah, Brett Holmes had some interesting comments about trade, saying he's had a few conversations, which he did mention is not out of the ordinary this point in the draft process. But what I did think said that was interesting was one, the thing I just said before, which is he's open to like there are a handful of people at different positions that he'd be able to sleep at night if he picked at number two. And if he says if there are if there are a few guys there, logic then says you'd be perfectly fine trading back a couple spots and still guaranteeing you're going to get one of those guys and also pocketing an extra draft pick. That makes a lot of sense. He didn't sound like a guy that's like we're sold on one guy. Not that he'd ever say that, but and then the other point is a question that I actually asked him whether he'd be down to trade before the draft even started, whether he would orchestrate a trade not even knowing who Jacksonville is going to take. And he said, yeah, I would do that. That to me is kind of telling. It says to me that he's already trying to kind of position an opportunity to trade down. And I don't know. Maybe it's all just talk. Maybe he's just trying to drum up excitement and throw people off his track. But to me, if you're saying there are multiple guys that you'd be happy with it too, and you'd be perfectly okay with trading out of that two spot, that tells me even like if what we all assume is going to happen, Aiden Hutchins goes one. Basically, Brad Holmes says even if that doesn't happen, even if there's a chance that doesn't happen, Aiden Hutchinson isn't a game changer for us. We're willing to trade back before even knowing if he's going to be on the table or not. That's telling. Is it not? Am I overreading the situation?
I don't think so. I think what's most important is what you just outlined. Like Aiden Hutchinson isn't their number one player on their board. Like that's what that's saying. Or you know what I mean?
Or he's just it's not that big of a difference between 1 and 4, right? Like he might be
yeah,
one, but they're
which
perfectly fine with 2, 3, 4, and 5.
which is the general consensus amongst virtually
Everyone's saying that.
everybody.
Yep.
Like all the way back to Dane Brugler when he mentioned, this is the worst year for the Lions to have a top 5 draft pick.
Yep.
And
McShay says it sucks to have a top 5 pick this year.
Right. And now we just need to figure out how much the Saints are willing to give up to move up to number 2 to get the player that they clearly want.
I'm still wrapping my head around this trade right now. I feel like this is a prelude to moving up even higher for them. So for those who don't know what we're talking about, today, the 4th, Adam Schefter reporting that Eagles sent picks number 16 and 19 and 194 to the Saints in exchange for 18, 101, 237 in the 7th round, and a first round pick next year and a second round pick in 2024. That sounds like a lot. I'm still wrapping my head around exactly what's going on here. The important thing is right now the Saints sit at 16 and 19.
Yeah. So essentially
that was only a little bit of moving up on their part.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they had pick 18. Now they have 16 and 19. So
right.
They moved up. They jumped one team.
They gained a spot, but like they're still in kind of the same area. They've
right.
just multiplied their picks.
Right. And so I've seen some people say like, oh, they jumped the Los Angeles Chargers. They're going for an offensive tackle. Well, if you're just trying to jump one team, first of all, maybe do it closer to the draft when you know your offensive tackle is going to be on the board. 2, why throw in extra first round picks and second round picks and getting that second first round pick? Like, no, they're loading up on first round picks in this year's draft for a reason. I don't know what that reason is, but it's very peculiar.
It can't be that they like multiple players in this draft to the point that they're willing to bet that whatever happens with them next year, it won't give the Saints a top first half pick. Because that's what they're gambling on by basically trading in 2023 first round for an extra first round this year.
Right.
Is forget about
Which
the
is,
second and everything else. That's garnish.
And that's a curious move, right? Like everyone's talking about how this draft class isn't that particularly good. They say it's deep, so maybe
maybe that's there. And 16, 19 is where you start to get, as you say, tackles, wide receivers are probably going to come off the board. Maybe if you like quarterback, maybe you might get one. But like with all this chatter on quarterback, it feels like this is the other possibility. They might need to make another move, and they've got 16 and 19 ready to go and loaded up to make another move.
And also, are the New Orleans Saints financially really in the place to keep both those first round draft picks and pay the contracts of both said first round picks? Like, I mean,
it's possible.
I think this is very clearly their attempt to load up and to move up. And there's two positions that they can upgrade, right? Because they lost Terran Armstead, their franchise left tackle, and they have Jameis Winston. And they clearly took a big swing and a miss trying to get Deshaun Watson.
And now that Sean Payton's out of the building, I don't think anyone cares about Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill is officially a tight end.
The other read on this that people have thrown out there is that they think they're ready to compete, which I don't know. Their roster isn't bad. Like they could slide into
the NFC South.
Yeah, they're not going to win the NFC South. The Bucs are. Like I think we can already pencil them as winners. But
right, but they play in a weak enough division that hey, if we beat up on the Panthers twice, if we beat up on the Falcons twice,
and so you add two first round picks, maybe you get production out of both those guys. I think they can probably fit them in their salary cap because
because it doesn't exist. Just say it.
No, not because it doesn't exist, but because
hold on.
I two guys late in the first might be around the same price as one guy in the top 5. Like if we're going to project them to trade all the way up in the top 5, that doesn't come cheap in terms of salary cap either.
I was going to say, because you mentioned Carolina in there, and obviously Carolina is one of the other teams that's very hungry for a quarterback right now, which is why I'm not sure they're done, because Carolina sits at 6. And if they want to take a quarterback, that seems to be where people are more than happy to draft a quarterback, according to a lot of the mock drafts. It's not 2. They will say that's bad for the Lions, take a quarterback at 2, but 6 is totally fine for the Carolina Panthers to take Malik Willis. So if you are the Saints and you want to jump them, you're going to have to make a dance partner out of, like, I don't know, the Giants or maybe the Lions. I don't think it's reasonable with the Lions, but maybe the Saints go for the Giants. But I mean, if you're the Lions, I guess the thing is, like, you got to sell them on trading with you at that point.
There's just a lot of hand wringing over draft pick charts. Like, stop it. Like, over the value charts, like it's not as important, and it's not by law as a lot of people think it is. Like, the team trading up has to give up X amount of more capital than they're trading for. No, stop. Like that's not how it always works. Like, this is like a guide, and I think that 16 and 19 could definitely get you up to 5.
Sure.
It could definitely maybe even get you up to 4 if the Jets are willing to trade out. But I think it's most clearly, I think that there's something to what Chris is saying is the Saints, they see Carolina and they might get a quarterback. Well, hey, the Saints themselves are in the market to get a quarterback. Let's move ahead of the team in our own division to get the quarterback that we want.
This is how this happens every year when we're like, yeah, this is a weak quarterback class. And then we get close to the draft itself and everyone's going nuts for Mitch Trubisky and they're scrambling over each other to get up there.
Who's already had a meeting?
True. They have met with Malik Willis. That is worth pointing out. So let's bring us back to the Lions conversation. First of all, do you think the Lions are a viable trade partner here? Do you think the Saints have motivation to go all the way up to 2? Do they need to jump Houston, a team that drafted a quarterback last year who played kind of well, but what was he, a 3rd, 4th round pick? So not necessarily a franchise guy. Jets probably have their guy. So do they wait and go for 5? Are they concerned about the Lions at all? Do they? I don't know. Like, to me, I feel like we view everything through a Lions lens. So when something like this happens, they're like, what does it mean for the Lions? Can they trade down now?
But what's the name of the podcast? To your question.
Yeah.
I think the Lions have to do a sell job there to get it. And I think some fans might be unhappy because you might not get the full value. And I hate that word value, but you might not get the full value out of number 2 because what else the Saints are going to throw in along with 16 and 19. Their second rounder, like suddenly you're at, if you can't ask for too much, because they'll just be like, why don't we just go check in with the Jets or with the Giants? So you're probably not going to be selling it for what it's completely worth, but I wouldn't mind for the Lions moving down to 16 and 19. That puts them in range of a lot of those wide receivers, like I said, and other essential pieces. Maybe not the top guys in the draft, but definitely that mid round is still very strong.
But I mean, we keep saying like there are no elite talent in this draft. Mm-hmm. So if it kind of, I'm not going to say there isn't a difference between the level and top 10 talent and 20 to 30 or whatever, but it's a lot lower than in normal years. So maybe that's why you take a lesser deal. I don't know if 15 and 19 will do it or whatever it is. I'd like to see it but 15, 19 and a second round, like I would strongly consider that.
So here's the deal, right? 16
to 19.
Yeah. 16 and 19 and 49, which is the second round pick that the New Orleans Saints have. Those are like just shy in value. Like we're talking, I think according to the Rich Hill value chart, like, you know, the Lions pick is like 714 or 717, whatever. And those three picks from New Orleans is just north of 700 in terms of point value. Basically even. But there's so many fans that think, oh, like the Lions would need to get more. Like they need to get a few. No, the Saints just traded their future first round pick. They traded their second round pick in 2024. Like that stuff comes off the table. But to what we're saying right now, when we take stock of those players 1 through 7, 1 through 8, however many you want to lump in there just isn't the value because there isn't a blue chip prospect. There aren't these guys who are surefire Trevor Lawrence or Myles Garrett or, you know, any of these players that come into the pre-draft process and have us start having a discussion of, okay, the pick at 1 is already made. Let's start thinking about how the rest of the draft unfolds.
Right.
That's not there. So moving up to 2 isn't going to be as costly as it has been in other years. This isn't the Cleveland Browns trading back with the Atlanta Falcons when
this isn't the Bengals. This isn't the Bengals refusing to give the Dolphins are trying to give the world to Cincinnati and they won't budge because they want Joe Burrow.
This isn't Washington moving up for RG3. Like the player's just not there in the eyes of a lot of talent evaluators.
The thing that is most curious about this to me, though, is just like, it feels like you don't make this trade unless you have another one coming, right? Like it feels like they might already.
For the Saints?
Yeah.
Like they might have one already lined up.
Framework, and if that's the case, like, and I don't know if it's an offensive tackle. I don't know if it's a guard that they're going up or a quarterback that they're going up to get, but. Where they have to have some, if it's a quarterback, they have to have a certain amount of certainty that their guy is going to be there.
That's always the other rub to these things, because we can call the Saints fools for trying to trade up in this year, but and like, as I would say this to Lions fans who are like, yeah, you should trade down with the Saints. If the Saints are willing to trade up so much to get a specific player, what does that tell you about that player?
Sure.
That an organization like the Saints, who has usually put together some mostly decent teams.
I just think of Ricky Williams, like specifically the Saints trading their entire draft to move up. But
okay, fair,
eons ago.
Fair.
Yeah. But I agree, Chris. Like to your point, like if some team is willing to throw all their ammunition,
push all their chips to the table
in one boat, and they're gonna, hey, we're taking down this castle.
Yeah. When they push all the chips to the table, are you gonna call or are you gonna fold?
And to where Jeremy was taking the discussion, I think that like you take a look at a team, you know, because as you say, like if the Saints are moving up for a player that they have in mind, they better get to that spot.
Yeah.
And they better not leave any room for error, right? So it seems like Detroit would be the benefactor of that, or even like maybe the Saints are trying to move up to the number 1 pick in the draft so they can take the player they want because they absolutely cannot afford to miss on this.
Right. Well, yeah, that's the problem too of doing it this early, right? Like, and maybe that's why we won't see the second leg of this, and maybe it's something that they're holding on, and maybe they're okay with their 2 picks right now, but they're holding on, hoping that, you know, you get to pick 4 on draft day and the guy's still there. But to me, it seems like the first leg in a second leg trade. And like you said, like if you trade up to 5 right now and you're like, we're going to get Malik Willis at 5, and then Carolina's like, screw that.
Not so fast.
We're trading up, baby. Like,
Not so fast, my
you
friend.
suddenly look like an idiot. You might not know publicly, but behind the scenes,
It's like you got goosed. You got goosed.
So yeah, that to me is maybe the one argument that is for the Saints being a viable trade option. Personally, I just don't think it's going to happen. I don't think that they need to trade all the way up if quarterback is their guy. I think they can wait on draft day and wait till 4 or 5, and the number one guy is still